let's talk about the California wildfires, which is an awful development that's occurred. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers go with everybody that's been influenced by those awful fires. And secondly, our thanks go to all the first responders. Always, always, amazing job that they do. So it's been the topic of conversation for the last week or so now. Ironically, I was in Malibu on the first, and I think the fire started on the third. So I remember I was driving to Pacific Palisades. We were going to Santa Monica, and I actually saw the last fire and the results of that. And what was fascinating to me is how the fire crossed Pacific Highway, and it was actually on the west side by the ocean. All of it was destroyed. This was, again, a previous fire. So let's talk about this fire. What we need to understand as a civilization, as humans, is that we have grown so much and we build in places that we know up front might be dangerous. Whether it's in a place, a place that's going to have a hurricane, or a place that can have a tsunami, or earthquakes, of course, in California, but also fires. Los Angeles is a desert. I think we need to know that if you're building in a place that has a desert, I think there should be, again, as a somebody who wants to do public service, I think every 5 years, there needs to be an audit as to what are we doing about the growth that we have, and how are we going to manage any kind of disaster, natural disaster. Of course, in this case, fires being one of them. I hope that we learned that now we've got to do the same thing about earthquakes and any other disaster that can happen in Southern California. People know there's a lot of acrimony going back and forth about this. People always politicize these situations. We don't want to do this. Not what we're here for. I think we're here to discuss some of the peripheral issues that are important. So we're going to stay away from this. My only, as somebody who ran for office and somebody who still wants to serve, I really believe that when we choose our leaders, and of course, in our system, it's based on politics, we have to look along with the political angle of a particular leader. We have to look at what I'm calling managerial competence. I don't expect every citizen that votes to be a manager or a HR person or a venture capitalist like I am. But I do expect people to, in the back of their minds, when they're voting for someone, to tell themselves, how is this person going to behave in a crisis? How is this person going to manage in a crisis? But also, how is this person going to avoid a crisis? What's this person going to do in order to manage the time that there's going to be a crisis? It's always easy after the fact to criticize, and we all know whether it's Governor Newsom or Karen Bass, they're getting plenty of criticism, and honestly, it's deserved. The way the world works is that everywhere in the world, the top person gets the blame and they get the credit. When things go greatly, the top person gets the credit. When things go badly, the top person gets the blame. That's how it goes in leadership. That's how it goes in our system. That's how it happens in our world. So yes, when people are voting, I mean, we're all going to be voting again for our mayor. We're going to vote for our city council. We're going to vote for school board. Make sure when you vote, because of the way our system works, that the person also is going to be competent, not just be on your side of the aisle when it comes to, especially in situations that are local, whether it's your mayor or it's your governor, etc. I really, really want people to keep that in mind in the future. And again, it's not just about after the fact, it's before the fact. So, it's great that now they're going to make great plans for rebuilding LA and incorporating, fire prevention and fire retardant and so on. It's a little late. So, any city in the United States needs to right now, every mayor in the United States needs to look at their city, look at where, do what we call contingency analysis, which is I am from fill in the blank, and my city is prone, maybe if there's a tsunami one day, and it's going to take out the whole city. Well, what am I going to do about it? What are my plans, and how do they look like? And you put these plans in a drawer somewhere, and hopefully, and now you a drawer. I'm old fashioned. You put it somewhere in a computer on the cloud, and then 5 years from now, you look at it again. I don't care whether you're still mayor or you're not. The administration, the system, has to look at it again and say, okay, we've adjusted. What should be different? The city's grown. The city's shrunk. Okay, so competence, and when you vote, looking for competence. With regards to another thing which people have talked about is the whole insurance. Was there insurance? Was there not insurance? Why? Why not? Again, I'm going to explain it. People can just make up their own minds. The state of California passed a Proposition 103 a while back. The voters of California did, and it had, it was sold as, sock it to the insurance companies and don't let them increase your rates. And we all don't like insurance companies, right? The concept of insurance itself is a weird concept, right? In case something really bad happens, then we're going to pay you. So in your mind, you're thinking, in case something really bad happens, immediately we're cognizantly negative about that industry. If you're sick, there's an insurance company. It's always something bad that's happening to you. It's never, a celebration. So that law was passed, and consequently, the California government, I think there's an insurance commissioner in California. I'm not sure, but anyway, they capped how much insurance can charge for, in this case, fire. So what do you do as a business in the United States? Thank God, by the way, that's our system. You leave. You just stop writing insurance policies. Actuarial numbers don't make any sense. That means if I charge you what the government's telling me I can, I will not be profitable as an insurance company. And my business is to be a profitable entity. Consequently, I will not, I will just leave your state. So people can get all they want upset about this, but if the state is not going to allow me to run my business the way I'm supposed to run my business, thank God in the United States of America, you just go to another state. You don't do anything in the state. That's how it works. You can't force people to do what you want. So that's the insurance crisis. So now what do we have? We have Pacific Palisades that's gone. We have who knows what else is happening down in as far as damage. And most of them don't have insurance, or most of them, I think it was like 33% had insurance and 66% did not. So I don't know how that plays out. I know there's a backup, a government, California government backup, but their budget is tiny compared to the damage that needs to be repaid. So that's on the insurance side. Again, I'm going to steer away from pointing fingers and who did what when. And, social media amplifies this, so we've got to be really careful. But back to the competence question, to be confirmed. But if some of the reservoirs were empty, which actually were going to provide water for the firefighters, that needs to be looked at. It needs to be analyzed. I would, as somebody with common sense, I would say, there's probably a good reason why reservoirs get emptied. But man, we shouldn't empty reservoirs when in the dry season, during a dry year, and at this time, which I understand, the Santa Ana winds are very common in Southern California, and they happen usually in the fall, a little bit in the early winter, which is exactly what January 1st was. You have these reservoirs and they're empty. And that's true. That's got to be looked at as well. So, but then again, for the next disaster, what is the equivalent of a reservoir? And how are we going to avoid that? That's where people have to be thinking. They have to be thinking this all the time. So we go in full circle. I think that it's awful what's happening. There is honestly nothing positive for me that comes out of that. I'm hearing $150 billion in damage. Let's say it's even half of that, so 75 billion. That's a lot. I live in the Reno area, and we had a fire this summer that got about a mile from my house, and I had to evacuate. But I also had to think about what if everything I own is gone overnight? And while I was evacuating, I looked at my guitars, I looked at all the books that I had, all the pictures that I had growing up, all the way back to Lebanon, to my childhood, my teenage years, my prom pictures. I left it all behind, and there was a chance that this would just go away, and I just can't even imagine. 30,000 families that have had exactly this happen to them in these awful fires. So it's just a tragedy. And as a public servant and somebody who wants to be in public service, I just want to promise that wherever I am, wherever I end up, we're always going to be looking to protect our constituents, our citizens, our brothers and sisters from any of awful things that happen, whether they're man made or not. Uh, One last point here. There's a little bit of a stigma about finding out how this happened and why this happened out there. Um, in order to solve a problem, you need to understand why it happened. So, whether it was energy lines, but hey, arson, we need to figure that out. And I don't care about political agendas. The 40, 50,000 people who lost their homes don't care about a political agenda. They care about finding out why these fires were started and, again, how we stop them and what we do. But if indeed there was an arson involved, and in some of them, I think they've already shown that there was arson involved, the punishment has to be swift and very severe, because uh, we're talking about changing lives. Last thing here, when I was 23 years old, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was doing junior achievement at Pacific Palisades High School, and it's gone. So this place that was important in my life as far as giving back and teaching kids how to be entrepreneurs and be business people, it's just gone. It's not there anymore. So, uh, full circle, thank you to all the first responders. God bless you, and and thoughts and prayers to everyone who's been influenced by this.